I'm not chasing money anymore. That's what I was doing in corporate, literally chasing it. And it almost killed me. The benefit to me having left corporate, I'm not poo-pooing on it, but I will say this. There is something about transitioning into entrepreneurship that frees you to truly speak with your authentic voice. That you don't have the freedom to do when someone else's name is on the door. I see so many creators on social media when a brand or someone else takes their content and posts without their consent. It's they feel powerless. And so what I want creators to know is you're not powerless. You have a voice. You need to set the precedent in the market that you don't allow people to steal and misuse your content. Go viral a few times. I can get to 1 million followers. Yeah, you might, but those people don't know you. They don't care about you, and they're not invested in your journey. And so as soon as you do something they don't like, they're gone.
Hi, Melia.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to our show.
I'm happy to be here.
The queen in the house. Thank you for being here today.
I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
How are you feeling today?
If I'm being completely candid, today has been a day. But I feel great. I feel blessed. I'm happy to be here with you. I was waiting all day to sort of get here on this couch to have this conversation. So yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, love it. As a tradition, we always ask this question to every of our guests. What are the 3 things you're grateful for today?
Such a good question. Got to start with life, right? Each day is a gift. And Tony Montana said it best, every day above ground is a good day. So, I like to start with just gratitude for life. My family, a close second, waking up to see my babies, my husband, and, we're all healthy and having a good time, loving each other. And, I think just the third thing would be possibility. Opportunity, right? The things that I don't know, maybe I can't see yet, but that are percolating for me. That expectation is what I think keeps us driving forward. So opportunity would be 3.
Right. Oh, love it.
Would you tell me what's sparked your interest and passion? Why do you want to go to law school?
That's such a good question. It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
It's a good question. So I'm going to take you a long way around to get to the answer. But I actually was bullied in high school. Let's start here. I went to several high schools, and one of the last high schools that I was at before I graduated, I was bullied. And the principal saw what was going on and called me into his office and said, there's something special about you. Let's see if you can, be involved in this program. I had no idea, what he was talking about. Never heard of the program before, but it was a post-secondary opportunities program that allowed high achieving students to attend college at the local community college. Yeah. And so I started college at, 16 and a half. In dual enrollment, doing that. And it was there that one of my professors really inspired my love for government and the law. And I knew then, that young, that I wanted to be a lawyer. And I remember what inspired me so much in the class that I had with this particular professor was that he talked a lot about the good that we could do in the world, by being involved in civics, government, politics, the law. And I knew that I wanted to be a part of that, right? And to be able to have influence on what was happening in the world around me, because I hadn't always felt like I had that kind of power. And so that really was the seed that started me on my path to the law. And then, I really never got off of it. So from about, 16 and a half until I graduated from law school, I was directed and focused on making that happen.
Wow. That's amazing.
Why did you choose Tulsa?
Why did I Tulsa chose me. Let's be clear. So I started in Oklahoma at Oral Roberts University for undergrad. And that was, I love my experience, and I don't think there was a better place for me to be, but that was heavily influenced, that decision, by my parents. And after undergrad, I I studied hard. I didn't do great on the LSAT. Now I know that, part of my path is to inspire other folks who, don't maybe score as high as they, aspire to and want to quit. No, literally, I didn't do great. I applied to 10 law schools and got rejected from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And in the midst of getting all the rejection letters, I applied for a master's program for urban planning as an alternative.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, I don't think they're not going to take me. Nobody's going to take me. So let me just go get a master's degree. And right before I, signed my acceptance letter to attend the master's program at the University of Cincinnati, the University of Tulsa called and said, we will have you. And so I went back to Oklahoma from Cincinnati to start law school. But, really it was just evidence that all you need is one yes, right? Just one. It doesn't matter. I had 9 no's. The one yes opened the door for so much that has happened in my life because of the privilege and blessing of being able to become a lawyer.
Yeah, yeah. So I can relate it to you on that because I applied for my engineer at the petroleum in Oklahoma and Texas, and I got except for Oklahoma City, OU, and Tulsa, and Texas A&M. However, OU and Texas A&M sent me a letter. Only Tulsa.
Yeah.
You pick up the phone and call me. Mike, you accepted. Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that meaning something.
Yep.
Those two ain't put an effort. This one put effort. So I'm going there.
That's right. Go Tulsa.
Yeah, go Tulsa.
That's right.
Too.
They're doing something right.
They're doing something right. And I'm very blessed that, meet a lot of good friends there as well. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's so funny that, we didn't know each other before, you came to shoot the show at the studio. And it's so rare that in South Florida, I meet, a fellow TU alum. So, I mean, I
know, it's incredible.
It is. Yeah. It really is incredible how that worked out.
Yeah. Good. So I want to ask you about, since you are a lawyer doing content creator to protect creators. So what step do we need to protect ourselves from, intellectual properties for social media platform?
Yeah, so I'll take you a step back. I started my career as a prosecutor. And this just gives context into, I think, who I am, as a lawyer and as a person. And, when you're in criminal law, especially on the side of the prosecution, things really are life and death. People are losing their freedom and their liberty, and everything is serious. And I transitioned from being a prosecutor after 7 years to go in-house to work for a major medical device manufacturer, global medical device manufacturer, leading their privacy, cybersecurity, and technology legal practice. Actually started it from scratch. There wasn't one before me. But in all of that, what I learned from the data privacy and cybersecurity perspective was that we are all vulnerable, right? Online, all of us. For so many years, my job was to make sure, first that our clients and our customers, that we were, being responsible with the data that they entrusted us with. And then working with inventors, right, and marketing teams to make sure that as they design products, that they designed with people in mind, right? That we never get so, how can I say this and be politically correct? That we are never so concerned with revenue and the bottom line that we forget that people are on the other side of that, right? And so when I sort of got to the end of my career in-house, I knew that I wanted to do something as impactful, right? It was sort of marrying what I'd been doing as a prosecutor, which is protecting the community from, really bad folks, but also protecting good people from bad law enforcement, right? And so that was my job, is to bring justice. And marrying that with what I did in privacy, I thought there's a huge hole in social media, right? Our children are online. You know, I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old, but the 17-year-old specifically, her whole life, there's been social media, right?
Yeah.
There's been this influence of online platforms telling her who she should be, who she is, right? Who to aspire to be. And then you see how much power and control that media has in general over everything that we do from an influencing standpoint. And even the creators, right? I saw that the creators who were, you know, striking brand deals and affiliate deals, like who was looking out for their interest? And so I said all that to say that it was really a lifetime of experience, you know, throughout my career to say, this is, you know, these are some risks that need to be addressed. And, you know, we have entertainment lawyers, we have intellectual property lawyers, but we don't have anyone, not anyone. There are very few lawyers and law firms that are specifically focused on closing the gaps in social media, right? And whether that be from a privacy perspective, an intellectual property perspective, a general contracting perspective. You know, how do you know as an influencer that you probably don't want to sign away the content that you're providing to a brand forever? You know, these agreements come and you just want to create.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You want to create and, you know, you want to maybe be paid for it, but it's not top of mind for a creator to be worried about things like perpetuity. So that you get paid, you know, a couple $100 and they're able to use what you've created forever. Does that seem fair?
Yeah.
No. Right. So we want, you know, my job is to come in and help creators really understand sort of what their rights are, you know, how to negotiate. And, you know, how to size up opportunities because, you know, not every opportunity is a good opportunity.
Yeah.
And, you know, helping them through education, just be more comfortable with, you know, charting their own course and, you know, standing up for themselves and for what they really want and who they want to be as they continue to grow and mature as influencers and creators.
Right. Oh,
So
that's amazing.
when you have a brand and a content creator like us, when they do the contract, do we have to ask our lawyer, just like you, to take a look at it and then we procedures?
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, everyone would have access to, you know, a lawyer and be able to afford to reach out to a lawyer and, you know, have a contract reviewed. But, you know, the reality is that's not the case.
Yeah.
Right. For, you know, newer content creators, you know, they may not be monetized yet. You know, they're trying to get started.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what I try to do and what a lot of, you know, I think firms are really good about is providing education through my social channels, right? You know, you'll see, you know, my content is really, you know, it's at a high level, but trying to at least educate on, you know, where are the landmines? What are the things that you absolutely need to be aware of when you're negotiating with the brand, when you're, you know, setting your rates, when, you know, you're reviewing a contract, making templates available so, you know, that folks can go in with an idea of what matters to them, and knowing what a good deal is, an opportunity is, and what a bad one is. And, you know, that's a lot about using stories that have already happened. You know, I'll give you one example. I was speaking with someone on a social media platform. She reached out to me in my DMs because she had gone into a big box store that we probably all are familiar with and shot content. You know, she didn't get consent to do it. You know, it was just sort of, you know, her thing. That's how she did her beauty content. She posted it. She probably had a couple of hundred followers on her account at the time, trying to grow. The brand saw it, downloaded it, and re-uploaded it as a paid ad without her consent.
Wow.
And so she was sophisticated enough to know that that was a problem. So she reached out to the brand initially herself to say, hey, thank you that, you know, for showing appreciation for my content. But, you know, can we talk about, you know, me being paid for your use of my ad? They offered her a $75 gift card.
They're such a cheat.
$75
gift card.
Wow. Okay.
And, you know, only we will never know how much money they made on the ad. But, you know, that's when she reached out to me to say, this doesn't feel right. right? I've heard you on social media. You're telling us that we should be, look out for certain things. And, this seems in line with one of those things that I shouldn't let go. And long story short, we reached out to the brand, and what would have been even best case scenario if they had offered her a deal up front for the video would have been a couple of $100. She walked away with $12,000. And the reason for that was because they understood that their offer of the $75 gift card was a willful acknowledgement of her copyright ownership, which, it's a willful violation of a person's copyright. First of all, it could be criminal. But second of all, it gives you access to more than just statutory damages. Now you get access to the big dollars. And so really, had it been a situation where we wanted to pursue it in litigation, she could have gotten more than $12,000.
Yeah.
And so they were smart to pay her. Mm-hmm. But these are things creators don't know, right? I see so many creators on social media when a brand or, someone else takes their content and posts without their consent.
Yes.
It's, they feel powerless. And so what I want creators to know is you're not powerless. You have a voice. There are things that we can do in the beginning to make it easier for you to be able to enforce your intellectual property rights. But, there's always something that we can consider doing to try to work it out. But you should never just lay down and give up and let, a bigger brand take advantage of you.
I see. I have a Facebook community, and of course I create content as well.
Yep.
And one time I was, looking at the new feed, and one video popped up. And then there's another creator using my content and to make it her own. It just popped up. I didn't even go check her. I didn't know her. It just popped up. And also I came from the, Burma, and there's a Burmese community. And then, so right now the political situation is not that peaceful as well, right? So when it's come to law, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on. So as a person who coming right now expanding into international market, right?
Yeah.
And also expanding in the Burmese community as well. How can we protect ourselves from even creator, right?
Mm-hmm.
They trying to copy each other.
Mm-hmm.
How can you start a conversation? Not just stop copying me, because some of them, they started fighting it.
Yeah.
Right? Stop copying my copy, and then they just go in live, and it's she's that, she's this.
Yeah.
And it's ugly, right?
Yeah.
So how can we prevent it? How can we start a conversation to creator to creator?
My first piece of advice is, keep it positive and keep it classy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't want to get down in the mud with people. I never find that that's the most beneficial way to get anything resolved, right?
Yeah.
And so, I think your first step is to do just what you said, and that is to, reach out to the other creator to say, listen, thank you for, taking notice of my content and finding it valuable enough to want to use it, right? What I would appreciate is, one, if we can work out how that happens, right? Because I'm the owner of the content, and I want to be able to control it in a way that best represents my brand, my business. I think you find that a lot of conflicts can be resolved just with a civil conversation, because I think most people, especially in the social media space, in my experiences, are ignorant to what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a lot of them aren't intentional, in terms of, they just want to steal your style, your content, and, they're lazy, right? They don't want to be good creators. But even then, I don't think that they are aware that it's actually, likely infringing upon a legal right of someone else, right? They just think, it's available. I can do it. It might not be popular, but I'm not breaking a law, sort of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think the first step is to have a conversation and try to work it out civilly, right?
Right.
If that doesn't work, I think you do need to escalate it. Because I think one thing we have to understand as creators is it doesn't take much to dilute our brands. It doesn't take much to dilute the reputation that we're creating. We're engineering in the creative markets.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, you don't want someone using your content willy-nilly. It might be completely off brand for you.
Yeah.
And so, if you've tried the civil conversation and that's not productive, I think that you have to escalate it, either, the next step being a half step, meaning that you are formalizing it in a letter. And I'm make templates available for folks that don't have to hire me. There's the DCMA process that allows you to ask the internet service provider to, essentially strongly request that anyone who is using their platform that they not infringe upon the copyrights of someone else. And so they will then send a letter to the creator and ask that they take it down after they've done an investigation. And those are letters that you can send on your own without me.
There's so money right now. I have to send a letter.
Yeah. Or a cease and desist. These are things that, again, it's great to have an attorney help you with, because they are very technical in terms of how they should be drafted and delivered. But if you find someone like me that makes templates available, that you can trust that they're experienced and that they, are well versed in sort of how to work out these situations, use those. And if not, you might need to escalate it sort of as a last step. To, getting formal representation from someone like me or an intellectual property lawyer, there's not many social media lawyers, but there are intellectual property lawyers that would definitely be adept at being able to help through a situation like that. But all of that being said, you have to do something.
Yeah.
Yep. Because you have to maintain ownership of your intellectual property, you have to exercise ownership, meaning the more that you allow people to use your content without your consent to sort of dilute your intellectual property interests, the harder it is to argue that you mean to own it, that you mean to, protect it from unauthorized use. And so I think you want to be a good steward over your content.
Right. Maybe they get inspired. That would be more like a psychology question. Do you think, does it help even if they get inspired? I get inspired by another creator as well. For me, I make sure to put credit. Let's say if I were to use your content, I'm like, okay, I learned it from Melia, but I will use my own style.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard for people to give credit?
Yeah.
Do you know, if it's not their own?
Well, I mean, I think, like I said, there are some creators that haven't really explored the outer bounds of their own creativity. And so the best that they can do is copycatting.
Yeah.
And a copycat will never credit the original owner because they want it. I mean, I think that's the psychology of it, that they want to pass it off as their own creation.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's a difference. And I want to draw this distinction too. All sharing of other people's content is not illegal, and there's fair use, right? So if you post something that I want to offer a different opinion about, in situations, I can do that without your consent, right? I can take your video and I can repost it with my own commentary, right? That's
fair use.
That's legal. If I want to use it in limited fashion for educational purposes, I can do that, right? And the idea behind that is we want to give folks the opportunity, to educate, to be inspired, to offer, an editorial about content that is in the public domain. And so, not all reuses of content is bad.
Yeah.
I think what you're hitting on is the bad though. And that is, where I'm copying your style. I'm sometimes saying your words verbatim, right? And doing your dance, right? All of those things. As a professional courtesy, you should acknowledge the creator and give credit to the original creator. But legally, you may be running into some issues from an intellectual property standpoint. Social media is harder because we are short sound bites by the nature of how we communicate and create content on social media to protect. So in order to, at least in the US, to really lock down your copyrightable material, you need to prove out its originality, its authenticity, and its creative, that it's a part of your creative brain trust. So a 30-second clip, that's pretty hard to do because my 30-second clip might sound like a 30-second clip that you did, a month ago, and I've not seen it. But it's hard to like get enough of what it is to understand, how original it is. But it's not impossible, but it's more difficult just because of the nature of social media. It's not like a book.
Yeah.
Right? Like I write, a novel, a couple hundred pages. It's clear, what's mine and what you're using that is stolen from my book. It's a lot harder to argue that, a 30-second clip it's just not coincidence. Not impossible, but it becomes more difficult.
I see.
Yeah.
How about the courses? I sold digital courses, and I noticed, of course, there's some copycat copying the courses. I've never sent out the letter because there's so many, right? So how can we actually put a copyright too, right? Copyright, right? Whatever, whatever the legal way. But how is it more work to protect your courses? Like the content is out there, right? In the public, but course is more like private. But how can we make it, protect our courses?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. First, I think you want to register your copyright to, sort of the presentation materials to any tangible asset of the course. Your videos, you want to protect those. So putting the C with the circle around it, you can do that for anything that you create. You can use the copyright symbol to denote to the market that you own it, right? That it's original to you. You are the creator, and that you mean to protect it. You want to put the C, the year that the work was published. You need that, but you don't have to register that with the U.S. Copyright Office. But I would say that if you're doing digital courses, you want to formally register the materials that are a part of that course to protect it, because you cannot sue for copyright infringement in federal court unless the work is formally registered.
I see.
And so you want to register that. So I think that should be a part of your strategy, your rollout strategy, right? Before we release this, we want to make sure that we are registering the copyrights for it. But even if you didn't, and folks are copying it, you're not without a remedy. There is the cease and desist process, right? That you can send letters and let people know that you mean to protect your interest, depending on publication dates. And I won't get technical here, but it may not be too late to register your copyrights, right? And so we can always do that and then look to file a suit federally for infringers. But the point is, I don't care how many it is. Every time you become aware of one, you need to act on it.
Right.
You need to set the precedent in the market that you don't allow people to steal and misuse your content, right? Like, right now, if you try to use the Nike swoosh in this podcast as an overlay, you're going to get a letter.
Yeah.
Why? Because Nike is aggressive about protecting their intellectual property.
I see.
And so we know that, so we don't do it.
Yeah.
Apple, aggressive about protecting their intellectual property. And when, I don't care how big or how small, when, someone infringes upon that, they are not going to let it go. Right? They're going to do, follow the steps to make sure that, you're aware that you don't have permission to do that, and give you a couple of options before escalating. But, I think smaller creators should think of themselves. My motto is this: we're preparing to be big, right?
Yeah.
I know right now we might have a couple hundred followers, maybe a couple of thousand followers, but I hope you're not doing this because you don't want to reach the masses.
Yeah.
We're publishing content because we want it to get to as many people who need it as possible. And in order to do that, you've got to care about the foundational elements of it, which is, how am I protecting my intellectual property so that it's not diluted, right? Because there are so many people saying and trying to do what I'm doing and probably not nearly as well as you are. So you have to be aggressive about it.
I see. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So bring it back to the copyright infringement, fair use. So how you protect yourself if there's fault copy infringement or the DCMA, they give it you as a fault, and how you protect yourself from
That's when you call me. That's when you call me. It happens, right?
Yeah.
There are, some folks that are super aggressive and they get it wrong, right? This isn't actually a violation of your copyright.
Yeah.
And unless you understand what is and what isn't and can articulate how the facts of your particular situation gives you permission to use it and differs from, what would be traditionally a violation, you need someone who is skilled in the area just to tell you, first of all, because you might think it's not a violation when in fact it is. And so the best thing to do is reach out at that point to a professional, especially if it means something to you.
Yeah.
It may be something that's like, it's not a hill worth dying on. If they don't want me to use it, I don't believe I violated their copyright or their trademark, but I can take it down. It's not a big deal.
Got it.
But if it is something that you've done and you maybe got a lot of traction and it's like to take it down would be harmful to you and your brand, that's when you reach out to someone like me so that we can fight back against, maybe that erroneous claim of copyright infringement.
Yeah. Because I want to follow up this question because one of the creator on YouTube, he's very big. And one of the creator told him that he copyright infringement his material. And his YouTube account was shut down for 90 days.
Wow.
Completely gone.
Yeah.
So what's the first step when it happened? What's the first step, what we have to do?
Well, you do your best to utilize the platform's procedures.
Yeah.
And I will say from my experience, they're not always the most effective.
Yeah.
But they can be. But even if it's not effective, I think what you want to do is demonstrate that you've exhausted all of the platform's procedures and remedies, right, to try to rectify it.
Okay.
Because I think that paper trail and that evidence that you've tried to work it out is going to be important maybe later.
Yeah.
But, this brings me to another good point. This is why I encourage creators to own your audience. And that's definitely the trend in 2023. And I think it will be for the foreseeable future. It's great to build huge followings on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Fantastic. I think we all have to be doing that.
Yeah.
But all of your followers, your, customers, if you're a business selling or providing services through these platforms, they should know how to find you off the platform.
Yeah.
Meaning, you should be driving traffic to your personal web pages, right? You should to your email lists.
Yes.
You should be collecting as much data as you can legally, right? And without violating someone's privacy rights. But you should be, staying close to your followers because at the end of the day, the platforms own the platforms, right? And that they can decide who's in and who's out. And, we've seen a lot of cases where, they make a judgment call. They pick one or the other. It might be a close call. They decide. And they're kicking someone off the platform that might have millions of followers. That's my livelihood at that point. And, a couple of weeks off of a platform when that's how I make my money can be extremely harmful to a creator. But if I know how to contact all of my followers to let them know what happened and where they can find me now, like, okay, I'm off YouTube, I'm moving over here to Instagram. Like, if you're not already over there, join me there because I'm not going to be able to post over there for a while until we work this out. But, I think, again, that's that stewardship with the gift that we've been given as creators to have people that trust us enough to follow us. You think about that. Think about that word, follow. It's almost cringy to me. Like, follow? Like, am I that? But yeah, and that's what influencing is that you have something valuable enough that people want to listen to it and they want to continue to engage with it. And you've built a community. And so you have an obligation to be a good steward over that community. Because what happened to this, and maybe he did have a way, but I'm just using him for an example. For the few months that person wasn't able to be on YouTube, I mean, there were people that missed him, that missed what he was providing on that platform.
Mm-hmm.
And without giving them another way to be in contact and to reach out, you've kind of, think about that, abandoned your followers. Yeah. And so it's the responsible thing to do, to make sure that you are bridging that gap and not being completely reliant on these platforms that sometimes have very arbitrary ways of deciding who's right and who's wrong and who's in and who's out.
Wow, very smart.
Yeah,
that's how we collect email.
Yeah, that's how we collect
that's
email.
why we're collecting email.
On my Airbnb, I collect email too. Airbnb don't give you that. Airbnb don't give you a phone number. Airbnb don't give you an email, but I do, because that's my customer.
It's your customer.
Yeah,
that's right.
I need it.
Yeah,
they don't share you. Same thing with Amazon. They're not gonna give you email.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's how we protect ourselves from those platforms. One of the questions I want to follow up with her about her content, her courses. What are the tools that you use that can track the people who using our stuff?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say about digital products, and I'm actually finishing up a template for folks like you who create digital products to be able to include in their terms of service for folks that are purchasing. Because I think you want to provide notice as early in that sales process as possible.
Okay.
That this is protected material, and that any, sharing outside of what you are allowing is a violation of the terms of service, right?
Yep.
And so that then gives you, again, another fail safe, when the bad thing happens and someone's screen recording or, taking screenshots and then recreating, things like that. Because once we can trace it back, we can demonstrate that they were made aware through the terms of service that this was a violation of the agreement, right? And so you need to have that. You need to have strong terms of service. You need to have strong language that makes people aware of, what the parameters are of their engagement with you for this digital product. But, in terms of tracking, I think there are tools, technology tools that are available to help you sort of tag, your products, from the metadata even to see, downloads and how many times you can restrict the amount of downloads for a digital product that a customer who has purchased it can make. But know this, at the end of the day, there is nothing that is 100% safe, or that's going to protect your work.
Yeah.
Because like I said, people can simply take their phone and record the screen.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing that you can do to mitigate all risks. But I think what you can do, you definitely want to, take active steps to implement, to do your best, right? To have those controls in place up front.
One of the content I saw on your video, you talking about cyber hygiene. Would you mind explaining that to me?
Yeah, I mean, cyber hygiene is, really doing the work of understanding what your risk profile is before the bad thing happens, right? And in staying regular with, doing threat assessments and things like that. Now, I'm the legal cyber person, but definitely the technical cyber folks can talk probably a lot more fluently about sort of exactly how to execute that. But I think folks think cybersecurity is for big business, and that's a mistake. Because in fact, a ransomware attack against a small creator or a small business doing business through social media could be the death knell of the business. Whereas a big business can decide, we're not paying that ransom and we just won't get that data back. We're going to continue to move forward. We'll figure something out. If that's my customer lists as a small business, if that's everything that I have, and I can't get it back, I may have to close my doors. And so I think it's almost even more important for smaller, mid-sized businesses to be very, very thoughtful about their approach to cybersecurity, about data management, the architecture of their servers, and where they're storing data, how their data is protected, making sure there are backups and things like that in case something like a ransomware attack were to come and you can't get it back, but it's somewhere else safely that I can access it. So that's cyber hygiene. It's just being proactive about knowing what the risks are and what your vulnerabilities are based on how you interact with different tools and platforms, and whether or not you're global, right? And you have an international presence, which may create more risk, right? What is your risk profile?
And then when we talk about attack, let's say, how can we protect ourselves from, as online content creators, online present, and there's malicious attack on you, cancel cultures. How can you protect yourself from those kind of scenario?
I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. Are you saying that if something does happen and then
the whole cancel culture?
And now everyone's saying,
what do you think about cancel culture?
Yeah. Listen, it's what it is. You can't dictate or control other people's behavior or response to a situation.
Yeah.
I think what wins the day and what I've seen work well for folks who have found themselves in trouble, maybe because something went wrong and there's been a data breach, and now everyone's like, forget about it. Don't ever work with Mike again. He's irresponsible. He doesn't care about his customers, his clients, and cancel him. The folks that I've seen come out on the other side of things like that, pretty well, are the people who are as honest, right? And as vulnerable about, what happened, and, transparent as they can be. I think where people run into trouble is, when we try to hide the ball. The reality is, we're all exposed to risk. The reality is that, we all have some vulnerabilities that we know about, that we don't know about. You can never mitigate 100% of the risks. Never. Never. You can do your best. And I think, that's why, what I'm doing, and lawyers like me who are really focusing their firms on businesses and creators and influencers to say, but these are some things that if we do up front, it's going to get, it's a better story to tell when the bad thing happens, because we can demonstrate that we do care. We have privacy policies and notices that aren't templates that came with the website, right? That really talk about what we do with data, that talks about how we protect data, that talks about our security controls. It may not be perfect, but it's specific, it's real, and it addresses, what our customers and clients expect. And I think doing those things help tell that story when, again, something goes wrong and people are saying, cancel her, cancel him. It's like, he's a good business person. He made a mistake or, this happened, but we're not gonna, wash our hands with this person because, and that's why building community is important.
Yes.
I look at people, and I say this on TikTok, especially for people who are trying to grow, and everybody wants to go viral. It's like, if I could just go viral a few times, I can get to 1 million followers. Yeah, you might, but those people don't know you. They don't care about you. They may have followed you because of that one piece of viral content, and they're not invested in your journey. And so as soon as you do something they don't like, they're gone.
They can't. Yeah.
Slow grow is, I think, more effective because I'm growing slower, but I'm building community, right? I know what I'm offering as a creator to my community, and they know what they can expect from me. And, as a slow grower, from a content creator's perspective, I can tell you when the cancel culture comes in my comments, because I have a community, I can't respond fast enough. They've already responded for me.
I love that.
I love that.
Right? Because they want to protect me because I'm theirs and they're mine and we're each other's, right? We're a community. And they know me. They can, they know when I'm being funny. They know when I'm giving serious legal content. And we are creating a vibe that is unique to our community. When you grow fast, you don't have that. It's transactional. People are waiting for the next piece of viral content. And when you can't deliver that, they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone.
They gone. Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's a good piece of advice. So as a starter, how can we build a community? If you're like, let's say someone's starting to run a business and want to build a community, not wanting to be viral, how can we build a community? Should we follow the trend? Because following trend, sometimes you're gonna get viral, but you don't have a community.
Yep.
So like, how can we form a community?
I'll say this, and I don't want to leave the impression that going viral is bad. I've gone viral a few times, and it's helpful.
Yeah.
But I think you want to.
Sorry, did it surprise you when you went viral? Right? It was like,
no.
Yeah.
I expect.
Okay, you expected that
to be big.
Okay.
Because I put my heart into my content.
Yeah.
And so I expect it to reach the people that it should reach. And I think that every piece of content that I publish is viral content. Not that I'm trying to be viral, but because I'm investing in the process of creation so that it's good content.
Yeah, and also like the way you deliver is authentic. Do you think people also look for authenticity?
So that's what I was going to say to your question is, how do you build a community? It's being real.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And not,
sister.
and not feeling like that you have to follow the trends, that you have to do it in a certain way. And this is the benefit to me having left corporate. And I love my journey, in terms of how I got here. Corporate was great to me and my family. So I'm not poo-pooing on it, but I will say this. There is something about transitioning into entrepreneurship that frees you to truly speak with your authentic voice that you don't have the freedom to do when someone else's name is on the door. And you shouldn't, right? Because you're representing that company. So in a lot of aspects, like you do have to toe the line because you don't want to do anything that's going to bring, harm to the organization that you work for. But for me personally, that sucked the life out of my creativity. Because I was so hyper conscious about what I said and how I looked and where I was and what I was doing that my creativity was completely suffocated.
Yeah.
And so even though I was trying to create content, it was very canned. It was almost fake. And I'll never forget it. One day I was shooting a video, a TikTok. I was shooting it here actually about opening the studio. I'd already left corporate, but I was still finding my voice. My 17-year-old daughter walked through as I was creating the content and she was like, ew, that's so cringy. And I was like, well, that's harsh. What do you mean? She's like, it's just not you. It's like as soon as that camera comes on, like you put on a different voice, it's just, it's cringy. And, that was kind of the end of that interaction. But when she left, I thought hard about what she said. Because she was right in that people don't want a version of me. They want me. Sometimes that's makeup. Sometimes that's not. Sometimes that's, very formal. Sometimes that's not. I'm funny. People want to see that.
Yeah.
Right? Why are, the different parts of my personality and my creativity being suffocated? Because I feel like I've got to be in this box.
In the box, yes.
And I think that's where I see creators going so wrong. It's not only just about being hyper-focused on a niche, but it's within the niche or de-niching, whatever you're doing. It is, you've looked at what someone else has done and maybe they're doing a great job at it. And you've said, that's the way to be successful. And so I'm going to take that and I'm going to overlay that to my style. And it's not working because it's not you.
Right.
It's like getting up every day as a 5-year-old and putting on your mom's high heels, right? You might get a few steps in, but you're not going to be able to walk all the way to school in those heels because they don't fit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not yours. It doesn't work for what you need to be doing. And so I think taking the time to really make sure you know you.
Yes.
Who you are. What's your purpose?
Mm.
You know, if it's real estate, within real estate, you can talk passionately about real estate, if that's you, because it's not just about selling property. It's about your journey to getting to real estate, right? It's about how real estate impacts family.
Yeah.
And I think the more that you can feel vulnerable enough to show your followers, your community, that side of you, the more endeared they become to you because they can trust you.
Yes.
Right?
Wow.
Wow.
That reminds me of 3 years back. I think I started my business 5 years ago. I kept talking about the same topic for 2 years because I have to stick to the niche. That's what everybody was telling me. Stick to the niche if you want to be successful. But what I did was I got COVID. I got COVID, and I'm like, it was terrible. And I was like, I'm not sure whether I'm going to die or alive. So might as well, I'm going to document myself. I'm going to talk about my health journey. This is something, different from what I was talking. And it went viral.
Yeah.
And then what you're saying is like, you got to be, when you try to connect with people or from the community, you got to be real.
Yeah.
And also like you're funny. And then like we talk about off screen that you talk about legal stuff, but you also talk about your story, your family, the way you came from. That's how people connect to you. Of course, they also getting professional advice from you, but still they get a taste of who you are.
Yeah. And I think that's important, right? When you think about, even from just a business standpoint, you want to, someone asked this question. I thought this was fascinating. They said, do people want to do business with people they respect or people they like? And, I think everyone in the room pretty much said, people they respect, right? Respect is better than like.
Yeah.
And that's not true. Think about that. Think about the people that, you enjoy interacting with. Like if you have a doctor that, is personable, that doesn't mind, how are your kids? How's your wife, right? That doctor for me, I have other doctors that, but that doctor, I'm never leaving that doctor, right? You get what I'm saying? I'm loyal because I like them.
Yeah.
I'm loyal because I like her.
Yeah.
And so I think, part of being likable is being authentic.
Yeah.
And recognizing that not everybody is going to like you.
Yeah.
And being okay with that. And I think that's another, big issue for content creators is we want to go viral, but you don't understand that to go viral means that you're going to be judged.
Yes.
You're going to be disliked. I'd say it's probably about 60-40. There might be 60% of the people when you go viral that love it.
Yeah.
And the reason why you went viral is they're watching it because they like it and they're commenting because they like it. The other 40% hate it. And they're commenting to tell you they hate it, right? And if you are a person that, is doing it for affirmation and validation, you're not going to last because you can't deal. Now, 60% of the people love it, but you forget them. I'm focused on the 40% that are telling me they hate it. And whenever you're creating to a negative, you're already lost.
Yes. Yes.
Because you'll never satisfy those 40% of the hate it.
Yeah.
They just choose not to like you, your style, but they're going to let you know. They're not going to just scroll past it. They're going to take the time to let you know. But that's part of growth. And that's part of success is being comfortable with not being liked. It's not that I want people not to like me, but I also cannot spend too much time focused on the people who don't like me because then I'm neglecting all the people who do. Right? That do connect with me, that are part of my community, are here because they're getting something. When I start creating content for those people, I'm happier doing it. It's more fun for me.
Yeah.
I'm more impactful.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the journey.
Yeah.
Yes. So true. I love it.
Yeah.
Have you ever been canceled? How many times?
I got a good example of that. Now, a lot of people don't get my sense of humor because it's a dry sense of humor. And if you don't have a sense of humor, you might think that I'm serious when I'm not. And so I did a post once that talked about my husband. And I was saying, if my girlfriends call me to tell me their secret, they got to know my husband's probably sitting right next to me. If I know he knows one of those, I was joking. No, does that mean that seriously every time my friends call me that I'm telling their secrets to my husband? First of all, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not even a thing.
Yeah.
But that post went viral. And oh my gosh, they were saying that I was violating girl code, that, you know, I wasn't a good girlfriend, that nobody should be my friend. I had another lawyer. And this part did hurt my feelings. Because there was another lawyer on social media that used my video.
Oh. Okay.
You know, she did a stitch of my video and then talked about how bad of a woman I was.
Oh my god.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Or it's like a react to your video and a commentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
She's also a lawyer.
She was also a lawyer. And I think that's probably why it, you know, really, because normally I'm like, whatever, that's your opinion. But, you know, it was like, you know, someone who was from my community,
Yes.
you know, got me wrong.
Yeah.
And then, you know, used it because, you know, my following was a little bit bigger than hers, used it because it was viral to sort of, you know, not only create backlash against me, but for the purpose of, you know, scaling and growing her community. And I just thought that was a crappy thing to do. I let her know I thought it was a crappy thing to do. Because if you just watch a couple of my videos, you'll know that, you know, I love empowering people in general.
Yeah.
And that this is just my sense of humor. And it was meant to be funny. So I actually sat on that one for a few days. And finally I was just like, you know, what do you do? Again, am I going to continue to focus on the 40%, you know, of
hate.
comments that are negative and, you know, reactions that are negative? Or am I going to focus on the laugh that I just had with, you know, 50,000 people who got the joke?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
It happens.
It happens. Did she reach out to you or did you reach out to her? No.
Yeah. So, you know, I did reach out. I mean, the damage was done because
I know.
Her post then went viral and, you know, she went from TikTok to Instagram. It kind of, you know, perused a few platforms. But, you know, at the end of the day, what I say is this: to be successful at anything, you have to be willing to be controversial.
Okay.
And, you know, that was me eating my own advice that I give to folks. It's like, if you want to really go, you're going to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah.
If you cannot go anywhere big, conflict free.
That's so
it's
true.
just impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible, yeah.
And so when I, you know, find myself in conflict, I have to remind myself of that. Like, you know, this is part of the journey. And, you know, the bigger, you know, the platform gets, the more feathers I'm going to ruffle.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. Wow. Way to go, sis. Way to go, sis. Yes.
Let me bring back the time that you off the corporate. Tell me how does that journey, because it's scary because you have very stable income and then you jump to entrepreneur, now content creators. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And also stress out about the financial. And you have family too.
Yep.
So how you can cope with that, you know?
Yeah. And listen, my husband left corporate in 2014 to launch his business.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have been the sole breadwinner, you know, for the most part, as he was, you know, ramping up his franchise and that. And where we came was to this: money could no longer drive our purpose.
Okay.
In that I made a lot of money in corporate. You know, I left making very high six figures. I mean, it was more than enough to support our lifestyle.
Yep.
But I wasn't living the life that I was created to live.
Yeah.
And the frustration in being sober to that fact that I'm making money, but I'm not alive.
Yeah.
Right? I'm making a lot of money, but I have no peace. I'm making a lot of money, but I have no joy. You know, there was a day where I literally had to draw a line in the sand to say, is it worth it to continue to sacrifice purpose and, you know, truly not being able to show up for family, for myself, for my community, because I'm now chasing a check. So I had this rule that every 2 years, I would check in with myself to ask myself this question. Am I getting more out of the job, the role, corporate, than it's getting out of me?
Yeah.
And at any point that I show up to that meeting with myself and the answer is they're getting more out of it than I am, it's time to go. And so I did my check-in and it was like, listen, you're miserable. And your misery is now affecting home. You know, my kids weren't getting the best side of me. My marriage wasn't getting the best side of me. But they were getting a lot out of me. I was traveling the world, you know, doing everything they needed me to do.
Yeah.
They were paying me. I mean, listen.
Of course.
I wasn't volunteering. So they should have gotten the best out of me. But it wasn't benefiting me in the same way that it had been before. So, you know, I had the conversation with my husband, like, listen, it's time to make this transition. And I think that's important too, is to come to a meeting of the minds with the folks that, you know, are going to be impacted by the decision, right? It's like, I didn't come home and like, look what I did today, hon. I left. We'll figure it out. We definitely sat down and had a conversation, which was like, you know, this is how I'm feeling. I did the check-in and I think it's my time to go. And, you know, my husband is so great in that he agreed. You know, you've shouldered the burden. You know, we're not completely out of the woods. You know, he's still growing, you know, but, you know, we've done the right things to, you know, feel comfortable with making this transition now. Also, you know, we made some big decisions because, you know, at that time we had a 4,500 square foot house in a very affluent neighborhood. And we understood that this transition meant that we were going to have to downsize our lifestyle, at least for a little while, not forever, but for a little while. But it was a sacrifice worth making, right? And so we sold our house. We moved to a condo downtown Fort Lauderdale and got busy about mapping out, you know, how we would get here in a way that our family would still be happy. And I could tell you this. As a family unit, we've never been healthier, right? In the big house with the pool, the gated community, you know, it served its purpose. But what we learned was our happiness wasn't in the stuff, right? Our peace wasn't in the stuff. It was in purpose. And so even in our, you know, small, you know, 1,400 square foot condo, you know, downtown Fort Lauderdale, we're happy. You know, I'm there. I'm present for my kids. And starting a business and two on the same day, it's extremely difficult, right? But it's easier to do harder things when you know that you're doing those things from a place of purpose and not money.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. How did you grow up? Like, you know,
do we have time for that?
We have time for that.
Time.
Yeah.
How'd you grow up and who was the first person that taught you about love?
Oh, now that's a great question. So I grew up in the mountains of East Tennessee. My family on both sides are from East Tennessee, which I think is outside of London, best place, you know, on earth. Right. I mean, just really good people, but very small country mountain town. And I was born into a family of struggle, right? Of struggle, but of folks who've triumphed over struggle. My mother, when I was born, was actually addicted to heroin and had a drug addiction issue. And I spent some time in foster care. And, you know, sort of growing up through those pains, my mother has since completely turned her life around. She's a master's degree social worker here in the public school system. And so, you know, we've been very fortunate to, you know, sort of see what tenacity can do in terms of really being committed to healing and being better. But as a child, you know, that was my experience, you know, really seeing my mother struggle through those things. My father was in and out. And so I grew up, you know, really feeling unsettled and unstable and not stable, sort of in, you know, the basic things, you know, where we're going to live and, you know, what I was going to wear, if I would have enough money for school fees. You know, these were things that as a child I was concerned with, right? not going outside and riding a bike and playing with friends. It was, how's the rent going to be paid? Is my mother going to be okay? Right. And, how are we going to survive these very harsh circumstances? But one thing that I learned from my mother, and I think to answer your second question, who taught me love first, it was my mother loved us enough to transform her whole life for us.
Oh,
and to recognize that she wasn't perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that she had made mistakes because her mother died when she was 7 and her father died when she was a teenager. So she didn't have parents to really tell her right from wrong. And so she was responding to her circumstances, but loving us enough to recognize that she could do something different, right? That she could turn things around and create a life that was better for her children. And so my mother did that. And when we were reunified with my mother, she went back to college and, she didn't have babysitters and daycare. So she would literally take us to her college courses, which, I know is what set me on the path and trajectory that I was on because I was exposed to higher education so early, sitting in the back of those classes with my mother, being on that college campus, seeing her thrive through, all of the obstacles that she had to get her degree. And she showed up for us, when we were in school. I never knew when my mother was going to show up in school to talk to the teachers. And because she was completely committed to seeing us break the ceiling on poverty and on addiction and things like that. And so that love is what has carried me forward to this moment, right? And makes me so sober and aware that everything that I have is a gift.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that, that has happened to me in my life that would, if you were reading a book, you'd be like, I don't think this is going to end well. Right? If you're in chapter 1, you are worried about the end of the book, right? I'm telling you, keep reading the book because it really gets better by the end. But, it's really just the blessing and the fortune of, having someone to love me so much to be willing to make changes in her life that would change mine forever.
Wow. That's how lovely to put that way. Yeah. Are you close to your mother?
Too close. so now it's working backwards to set some boundaries. But no, we're extremely close. She's a great grandmother to my children and, a best friend.
Right. You grew up with scarcity mindset when it's come to money. Does it affect you when you grow up? You were making a lot of money too, but how do you switch your mindset into more like an abundant mindset when it's come to money?
Yeah. It's, recognizing one, it's a path that I'm still on. And I think, leaving corporate really exposed. I thought I made it. Like, I'd worked through the scarcity mindset and, reading books and going to the conferences. And I thought I had it, right? Because I was making a lot of money. But what I realized was as soon as I stepped out of corporate and into entrepreneurship, it all came back because I didn't have the safety net of knowing, sort of where, being an entrepreneur. It's like, listen, you come, you book me, you schedule a consultation or not. Like I'm worried about, how the bills are going to be paid. And so that took me right back to my childhood where I was worried about how the bills were going to be paid. And it was, I found myself, having to, wait a minute, this is something we need to deal with because it wasn't that you actually healed through these things. It was that you arrived to a place where you didn't have to deal with it. Those are two completely different things.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so now that you are in a place that you have to deal with it, you have to make a decision, are you going to be a slave to money or are you going to open up your mind to realize that you are deserving of abundance, right? And that your promise is abundance, right? It's not a matter of when it will come. It's already here. And, that was even the decision that we made to sell our house. It wasn't a hard thing for me, but, I had to think about that. Am I going to stay married to the status symbol? Or am I going to, trust myself and everything around me enough and my creator to say, that's a thing.
Yeah.
I can get things back, right? Things will come and go, but wealth doesn't have anything to do with money.
Yes, it's a feeling. Well, it's a feeling. Oh my
Right.
goodness.
Wealth is
I
a
love that.
feeling. It's a belief
Mm,
that,
Okay.
you know, where I go, things open up to me,
yes.
right? Because I'm deserving of them, because I've worked for them, and they have to respond to me.
Mm.
So that's like you going online and looking for a studio and you find me because I'm wealthy,
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
I got
wow.
chills. This is going to be like chocolate.
right? I mean,
Yes.
there's nothing in the visuals that made this studio better than any of the other studios you probably considered, but you were attracted to me because I believe I'm deserving of you as customers,
Yes.
Oh, wow.
right? And it's, you know, it's still every day being conscious to show up that way.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
And that is a daily meditation,
yes.
right? How can I show up
Mhm.
fully in purpose, on purpose, attracting everything that God has already preordained for me? Because now I'm just living it out. It's already happened.
Yeah.
It's already open to me.
Mm-hmm.
I already have access to it all, but I have to show up in it,
Mm,
right? It's like being in
Yes.
a room with a safe full of money and it's wide open, but you can't get to it. Nothing is more frustrating than that, right? Because you can't get to it because of the wall and the barriers that you've put up because you said, that's not for me.
mm,
I'm going to sit here and I see the safe. I see, you know, all of the connections that I need. I see all the relationships that I need. I see the money that I need. It's right there, but I'm just going to sit right here with my hands in my lap because after all, I'm just Melia.
mm,
And Melia
Mm.
doesn't deserve good things.
mm.
Melia doesn't deserve, you know, to be wealthy and to,
Yeah.
you know, have folks like you coming. So as long as I'm sitting here with my hands in my lap and not going after it and not showing up big, believing that I'm worthy of it, saying no to opportunities because, you know, if I get on the podcast, am I going to have anything? I have a lot to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's also, I think wealth is authenticity
Mm.
and recognizing that I don't have to show up in the room the same way you do. right?
Mm.
Yeah.
And that my wealth is in all of my experience, the richness of my experiences.
Yes.
It's being able
It's
to come on this
unique
show.
to you.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
talk about my mother being a heroin addict and not being embarrassed about it because
Yep.
somebody needs to hear it.
Mm.
There's somebody that's going to listen to this or watch this to say, wow, I might not feel like I can, you know, sit on the couch next to a millionaire, but Malia's lived my life and she's telling me you can. I can.
Mm.
That I'm deserving of it, that I'm worthy of it, that I can become a lawyer after being rejected from 9 law schools and then not be embarrassed to talk about it,
Yes.
right?
I love
Yes,
that.
I love
And I think a lot of times we don't walk into our wealthy places because the thing that our wealth is tied to, we're sitting on it because we're embarrassed of it,
Mm.
right? My
Okay.
story is my wealth. But if I don't tell my story,
Wow, your story is your
Oh, wow.
wealth.
Oh, wow.
right? But if I'm embarrassed of my story, if I'm always hiding from the hard parts, the painful parts, the ugly parts that help me get here, I'll never access my wealth. You know, and that's the thing is, you know, being open to being authentically you and showing up that way and believing that everything that you need is going to come to you. You don't got to chase it. I'm not
Mm.
chasing money anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing in corporate. I thought I was, had overcome scarcity, but really I was chasing money,
Mm.
literally chasing it. And it almost killed me.
Mm.
It almost killed me. I was never happy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But now
Mm.
I'm me. And it's not easy every day,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm wealthy.
Yes. Wow.
Oh.
Amen.
Amen.
Did you ever have like lost track? Like you're embodying wealth, abundance, right? Wealth is a feeling. And did you ever have like lost the track of like what you were embodying?
Yeah. I think so. I think, you know, this is why I'm careful about how much content I actually consume.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because I think if you're not careful, when you overconsume content, you know, on these different platforms, I think
Mhm.
it can separate you from your reality, right? And your
Yeah.
path and your journey.
Yeah.
And there are times when I've looked at other attorneys and, you know, other creators, and I've said, when I'm over-consuming, wow, what I'm doing is deficient compared to that. It's not
Mhm.
enough,
Yeah.
right? And I don't have the same things that they have. And when you start making those comparisons, I think you're in a dangerous territory.
Mm.
And so I watch and I consume enough content to honor other people's, creations and their creative processes and to learn from it, enough, in terms of, different approaches to consider. But I don't allow myself to chew on it, right?
Yeah.
And to internalize other people's path and other people's output or their journey to wealth or how they're defining wealth, because the definition of wealth is really different for all of us.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. For me, being able to be home with my children makes me wealthy. Right. Being able to drop my kids off at school every day. Man.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
That's part of my wealth portfolio.
Yeah.
Being able to do this. Right. Instead of, what I was doing before, traveling the world, doing big things, but wasn't filling my cup. It wasn't allowing me to fill other people's cups. And so I think whenever I find myself drifting off into those things where I'm over consuming and I'm starting to compare, I find myself sort of getting further and further detached.
I see.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I actually sometimes came across something like that too. When you consume a lot and you see like there's a comparison, but they're way ahead of you, probably 15 years ahead of you, but you started comparing it.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's time that you gotta take a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop consuming content or get off of social
and
media.
I'll give you an example. So I run, and sometimes when I'm running, because I'm extremely competitive, extremely like, oh my gosh, like it's exhausting. I'm so competitive. And so sometimes when I'm running, I'll go out to the track and there'll be someone on the track already, right? Or someone on the trail running. And my inclination is to try and catch up, to chase them, right? To get ahead of them. But what I have to tell myself is, I don't know when they started. I don't know how long they've been running already. I don't know when they're going to finish. And so if I start to race someone, right, that we're running two different races, I'm going to wear myself out. And then as soon as I get up to that person, they walk off the track. And I'm wore out. I haven't finished my workout because I started to allow competition and the race and comparison to someone else's race. We're not running the same race, right? They were doing 2 miles. I'm trying to do 6. And now I'm wore out because I'm sprinting somebody that's only running 2 miles, right? And they're done. And now I'm off. And so, I think you have to define your race. What is your path? What is your race? Because to your point, you're looking at them. You're not running the same race. You're not running their race. They're not running your race. And so being careful not to start to get into that comparison and that competition against people that you have no idea where they're going, what their goals are, what their objectives are. Maybe their objective is just to make money. And if you're not careful, you'll start to internalize that. And now you're just trying to make money, right? Because now you're in competition with the dollar.
Yes.
When that was never your race. Your race was inspiring, encouragement. Your race was, building community, not money, right? But now we're chasing money. Where did that come from?
That makes sense.
Yes. You kind of dilute it by whatever the other people is doing. That's actually even not your journey. Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah.
What's the footprint you want to give when you're about to leave the earth?
Like your legacy.
Your legacy.
I'm sorry, you're probably gonna be so mad at me because it's so simple. I just want to leave the world better than how I found it. That's it. Whatever that, however big, however small that is, that everything that I have the opportunity to touch, I want to leave it better than how I found it. That's it.
Amazing.
Wonderful. Well,
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, Melia. Thank you
so
for your
much
time.
for your time.
There's so many wisdom that we've learned a lot today, actually. There's so much to unpack. And I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so grateful that you're sharing your journey and also your professional journey. And there's a lot to take notes. Melia,
I appreciate
today?
the opportunity. I mean, this is cathartic for me. It's not every day, I get to talk about my life from beginning to end. And I came in here like a tornado, right? Like just the day was going. And so this has definitely been there. Thank you for letting me sit on your couch. This has been therapy for me. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you for sharing your wonderful wisdom to us. That's not many people can hear your story, like truly your story. You just have a presence on social media, but your true self is here.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Now I have goosebumps.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh, you're
Melia.
welcome. It's
Appreciate
my
it.
pleasure.
All right. Good.